Welcome back to the channel. RacerX here, and today I want to put a video together about something that many of you guys have been asking me about repeatedly on various social media platforms. It is, look, RacerX, do you regret selling your monster Hellcat in lieu of a Mustang? Well, today I'm going to give you the true answer to that. I've kind of answered in sort of roundabout circles, if you will, on the different pros and cons of both cars. I'll talk a little bit about that today, but I'm going to give you my honest answer. Do I actually regret selling the Hellcat? If you're brand new to my channel, please do me a big gigantic favor. Please hit subscribe. You can find that right down here in the corner. Only like 21% of you guys watching this video are actually subscribe to the channel, and why not go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because I've got lots of great things planned for you this year. You can follow me on Instagram as well, and off we go.
T-minus 15 seconds.
So as many of you that have followed my channel for a while may know, a while back, it's been well over a year now, I had a Charger Hellcat. I actually started my channel with the Charger Hellcat. That was kind of my halo car for quite some time. And 1,000+ horsepower that car made. I drag raced it all the time. I had all sorts of different drag racing videos out there. And as many of you guys know, that is something I'm well known for, is drag racing. Well, that car was unbelievably consistent. It was unbelievably fast. I won a lot of events with that car. Street Car Takeover, I finished like second and third different years. And I mean, I raced that thing all the time, had a ton of fun in that car. And, that tune on that car was really what set that thing apart, because a lot of people emulated my build, the 275 upper, 10% lower on that car. And it just worked so well. It really did optimize everything that car was all about. It wasn't a crazy setup on that car. Went to E85, I just did some pulley work on it, didn't do a whole lot from a suspension perspective, and the car just really worked well. And one of my biggest regrets, obviously, with selling that car, and I do actually regret selling that car quite a bit, is the fact that the owner, the person that I sold it to, actually ended up taking the motor and ripping it completely out of the car. Hardly ever raced it. And it was just an absolute shame, because I put my heart and soul really into that car in terms of just making sure the tune was right, making sure the car was set up correctly. My sponsors worked hard on that car, and it was a perfect setup on that car. And then, of course, to hear that the motor simply got ripped out of it and the car basically got destroyed was a huge blow to my ego. So that did not make me happy. That is one thing I regret. Now, another thing that makes me regret selling the Hellcat in lieu of the Mustang, at least just a little bit, is from a drivability perspective. And there are a couple different points I want to make on this. The Hellcat drove really, really nice. And because it was a pretty simple setup on that car, as I just mentioned, I mean, I didn't do a whole lot to it besides, do the pulleys and the fuel and all that kind of stuff, but the car really did drive great. I didn't go super invasive with the setup, and that's partly why it was so fast and so reliable. Dodge did a great job with the design on that car. This thing is a twin turbo. It was never designed to be a twin turbo. It works really well, but it drives a lot more just like a race car. There are a lot more creaks and things like that. It's got a lockout kit on and a lot of stuff it needs for drag racing. It does not have dynamic suspension like the Hellcat did. So I had to do a lot more to the car to kind of get it to handle the big power that it makes. But unfortunately, the car drives just more like a race car. I mean, it's louder on the inside even than the Hellcat. And the Hellcat was a loud car, but this car just makes a lot more race car type noises. It still sounds good. I love it. But in terms of just daily driving, all that kind of stuff, it just doesn't quite drive as good as the ride's a little bit rougher. The Hellcat just drove better. And also, believe it or not, as hard as this is to believe, the Hellcat actually got better fuel economy than this. I had twin fuel pumps in the Hellcat. This thing was made for big power. When I built the car, this has the triple fuel pumps in it. And even though it is smaller in displacement, 5 liter versus 6.2, this one actually is worse on fuel economy than the Hellcat was. It's hard to believe, especially considering it's 800 pounds lighter, but that is the truth. Now, one of the other things that I absolutely loved about the Hellcat and the Mustang is just a different driving car altogether. I talk about this on some of my other videos, but I really sometimes miss the low end punch on the Hellcat. I mean, you just get a little bit of throttle and tip into it. The thing just wanted to light the tires up. I mean, it was an absolute smile machine, and you didn't need a lot of real estate in order to kind of blip the throttle on that thing and feel just how powerful it was and just listen to the sound of it. Mustang, completely different deal. You have to have just a runway's worth of space to kind of let this thing start breathing. And then when the boost kicks in, you feel your eyeballs get sucked to the back of your head. But it takes a minute for all that power to come in. And then before you know it, you're doing 170 mile an hour and the thing is just an absolute missile. But like I said, you have to have a lot of room in front of you. And there's just not a lot of places where a car that makes this kind of power, where you have to kind of wait for the turbos to really kick in. There's not a lot of places where you can use all that power. So the Hellcat had a little bit more usable power. I make mention of that all the time. And as I mentioned before, it just was a huge smile machine in just a different way. Now, the last thing I want to make mention of in terms of my regrets about selling the Hellcat is simply the exclusivity of the car. This is a really good looking car, the Mustang GT. But the truth is, you kind of see one on every street corner. They're just very popular. And you know, the Hellcats, you just don't see as many of them. Yes, there are more of them now than there have ever been. You still can go out and, you know, take a long cruise and you might see a Hellcat or two, but you will see a whole bunch of these Mustang GTs. It's a little bit harder to stand out in a Mustang GT. Of course, mine was made with a sleeper motif as it is. So that car, it really is a true sleeper status car, and there's something to be said for that. But I really did like how exclusive, and especially with, you know, the aesthetic things I had going on with my Hellcat, it just was a very unique looking car. And this one a little bit more run of the mill. So there's that. So it is not all doom and gloom when we talk about the Mustang. I don't completely regret buying the Mustang, and there are really some big reasons why. So I will go ahead and explain to you maybe some reasons I don't regret selling the Hellcat. And the first is just the potential of the car. Mind you, this car is 700 pounds lighter than the Hellcat was. And I haven't even taken any weight out of this thing yet. I say yet. But they make almost the same amount, but they actually do. They make exactly the same amount of rear wheel horsepower right now. But the Hellcat was kind of set up there. You know, I had the 275 upper, 10% lower. Maybe I could have pushed the envelope just a little more. But this car at 12.5 pounds makes the exact same as almost the maxed out Hellcat, at least enough to keep it reliable. But mind you, these turbos on this car will flow 30 pounds of boost. So we're talking a lot more horsepower. The Coyotes just love boost. Now, mind you, I will have to go ahead and put a short block in here and a transmission to handle that kind of power. But I mean, that is a lot of power. The car's already set up to do it. And this car is the faster of the two cars. People ask me that all the time. RacerX, is your Mustang faster? Is the Hellcat faster? Well, the Hellcat was faster from 0 to 60 for sure, especially on a sticky track where we could actually get some traction. But I'm getting ready to put something in this car that's going to really help out on the 60 foot. So I expect the quarter mile times on this thing to come way, way down. And this thing already at 12.5 pounds makes more mile an hour on the top end than the Hellcat ever did. It's just a weight difference. So yeah, the potential of this car significantly higher than the Hellcat was. Now, I do also want to make mention of this, but from a handling perspective, because the Mustang is so much lighter, it just handles a little bit better. It's a little bit more darty. You can feel the thing kind of, when the boost really starts to kick in, you can feel just how much lighter this car really is than the Hellcat. And while the Hellcat, I mentioned, the Hellcat rode great with the dynamic, you know, suspension modes and all that kind of stuff for just everyday type driving. Man, the Hellcat was fantastic, and I preferred that car. But in terms of just the handling and dartiness, the Mustang's a little bit better just because of the sheer weight. It's just a smaller car. So there's that as well. Now, I do want to talk about this because I feel like it's worth mentioning, but really the main reason that I got rid of the Hellcat in lieu of the Mustang was simply because I needed something different for the channel. And if I'm being completely honest with you, the Hellcat content had already gotten pretty stale. Every time I would put out a Hellcat video, while the Hellcat guys loved it, it just didn't do well. It didn't really do much for my channel. I wasn't gaining a lot in terms of subscribers. My viewership just wasn't there on the Hellcat. I would do these amazing race videos and all that kind of stuff, but yet they would get almost no views. I mean, a few people would, but in terms of just the traction, the scat pack that I had great traction. Every time I did an RT video, a lot of traction with that. But I got the Mustang really to kind of help the channel grow in a different direction, and it has done just that. I mean, the Mustang, much more traction with it than I ever got on the Hellcat, and really that is really the main reason that I decided to go with the Mustang. Now, along those same lines, when I got my Hellcat all the way back in 2016, I did not have my YouTube channel, and I actually built that car before I ever started my channel, so nobody got to watch the buildup of the car. Yes, I did other videos where I talked about what the setup was, but you guys didn't get to follow along with the build, where when I started fresh with the Mustang, you guys got to see the blue car. Of course, we crashed that car, which was a huge bummer, but then you got to see me kind of rebuild the red car, and it was kind of this whole journey you guys got to follow me on, and I thought that that was pretty cool. And I really regret that on my Hellcat you guys didn't get to watch the journey of that car being built, all the growing pains, and there's just something that's kind of entertaining about watching a car as it evolves and it just kind of takes shape and it becomes what it is, a really fast, consistent, amazing car. But it is kind of neat to just watch somebody build it and go through all that kind of stuff, and that's another thing I like about doing the Mustang thing. And lastly, I will touch on it just briefly. The Mustang GT, even though it's not as exclusive, yeah, it's a less expensive car. My payment on this car is actually significantly less than it was on the Hellcat. It just didn't make sense for me to continue to make content that just a lot of people weren't watching. It wasn't getting my channel a lot of traction, and it cost a lot more on the payment, where I could get something like this, go in a different direction, get a whole new group of folks to come on over to the channel, maybe check it out, get to follow my build, all of that good stuff, and for far less money. Of course, I do have a lot in this car, but I was able to work with some of my really amazing sponsors to show you what this thing is capable of, and we're still in the process of that. And so there you have it. So do I actually regret selling my amazing, super consistent, super fast Charger Hellcat? Well, yes, I do. There are lots of reasons why I do. I kind of do miss that car. I miss the drivability of it. All the things I talked about, the car was fantastic. I love that car. But there are also some reasons I really do like the Mustang, and I still really enjoy this car. You can hear how loud it is in this cabin. I mean, it is not for the faint of heart. But I do really still like this car, and whenever I get in the boost on this thing, what an animal. And you guys can continue to follow my build on this, and who knows, maybe I have another Mopar in the works here coming up very soon as well, so stay tuned. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, RacerX.